Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Caldwell here. You know me by many names: Jamin John, King Burt, Burt Wrangle. I want to talk to you for a few minutes about something serious. A day that changed my life forever. 17 years ago today, horrific attacks happened on the United States in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I wanted to share my experience of where I was that day 17 years ago. I know a lot of you probably haven't experienced yourself and you don't really want to talk about it, and that's okay. And some of you weren't born during that time, or you was like 1 or 2 years old or 3 years old during that time and you don't really have a recollection of it. So I wanted to share that experience with you of what it was like to go through 9/11 as it happened, especially as a child. So 17 years ago today, I was a 7-year-old second grader at Walkertown Elementary in Hazard, Kentucky. And that morning it seemed like a regular school morning. Everything was going good. Everything was all right. Just a regular morning. My second grade teacher received an email from the principal stating that an incident had happened in New York City and that she should turn on the television. During this time, you got to keep in mind there was really no such thing as smartphones, and the internet was dial-up. There was no such thing as broadband or anything like that. Dial-up was the most popular option to get on the internet. And so getting live updates online was very hard to do because the internet was so slow. So television was still the way to go to get live breaking updates on news. So she turned the television on, and she seen this big gaping hole in the North Tower. And she just put her hands over her mouth and gasped, and we looked up, all the kids did in the classroom, and we seen the North Tower on fire. And we were all confused. We didn't know what was going on. We had no idea what the World Trade Center was. The only buildings that I knew in New York City at that time was the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, and the Chrysler Building from the Godzilla movie a year earlier. And so I remember seeing that tower on fire, and I can't remember what news station it was. I don't know if it was NBC News or CBS News or ABC News, but they had a reporter down on the street, and I hear screeching metal, and the camera pans up, and you see this jet go straight into the South Tower, and you see this big fireball. And right when we seen that fireball, the reporter runs away, and my teacher turns the television off. And at that point, of course, seeing a fireball, seeing a plane go into a building, it set all the kids into a panic. Everyone was hysterical, crying and screaming. And very shortly after that, after we seen that happen, school was dismissed that day. I remember the principal came over the intercom and said that they would be dismissing school early due to an attack on America. And I was petrified. I did not have my mom, I did not have my grandparents. I was there by myself at school, and I was petrified because I didn't know what was happening. All I knew was there was an attack on America. And so I instantly went down to the office because they started saying, walkers and riders, come down to the office to get picked up, call your ride to come get you. And then they started getting the buses ready for bus riders. I went down to the office, and oh my God, there was so many parents down there. The whole lobby was filled with parents. And I remember seeing my mom, trying to find my mom at first, and then I finally seen her. She had already signed me out, and she grabbed a hold of me, and we went back to our apartment. And I remember she just hugged me on the couch as we watched the rest of the coverage. And we prayed together, And I asked her, I said, Mom, what's happening? What's going on? And she said, we're under attack. And I was scared to death, and she was scared to death because we thought that more attacks were going to happen. We thought attacks were going to be happening in every state. We thought New York City was going to, every building in New York City was going to get attacked by planes and stuff. We were just deathly afraid of everything going on. And I watched more coverage of it whenever I was at my apartment. And I remember seeing people jump, falling to their death. That really disturbed me. I had never seen anything like that, and no 7-year-old should ever see something like that. And I remember seeing those people jump out, knowing they were going to die, that they couldn't live from jumping from a height that big. And it really bothered me. It really bothered me to see that, because, it was very disturbing. And a 7-year-old shouldn't be seeing stuff like that. A 7-year-old shouldn't be seeing a plane go into a tower, and seeing an explosion. It was just so unreal and so rough to witness that. And I remember seeing the towers collapsed, and Manhattan was just smoke. It looked like a bomb went off in Manhattan. I mean, it looked like a war zone. Everything was covered in smoke. It was so scary to see that. I couldn't imagine living in New York City at that time and just seeing all that happen. I couldn't. I actually went to New York City a year later in 2002. I had the chance to go. My grandmother was friends with a guy who was a truck driver, and he had to go to the Bronx to take a shipment into the Bronx. And I remember going to New York City. It was a pretty exciting but also somber time for me to go to New York. And I remember going over, I believe it was the George Washington Bridge, and I remember seeing Ground Zero. And my God, once you really see it, once you really experience it in person, the cranes, the construction equipment, the gaping hole that's just left there by the towers that fell, man, it's so fucked up to see that. And you feel so fucking bad for just everyone that just lost their life. All those people that got up that morning to go to work and just live their life, killed for no reason. And 17 years later, it still pisses me the fuck off that happened. I felt anger as a kid 7 years ago because of that, and I still do. Because I just don't understand. I don't understand why that had to happen. And I should have never seen that stuff. Nobody should have. So, the next day at school was September 12th. I went to school that day. A lot of kids didn't go to school that day because they were afraid. The parents was afraid that another attack would happen. And they kept their kids home, just to stay on the safe side. But I went to school the next day, and there wasn't a lot of kids there. Like I said, it was very somber, very, very somber, very quiet, very eerie. Now, remember, the only assignment that we had to do that day was to draw what we had seen, kind of like an art therapy thing. And the name of the assignment was going to be Attack on America. You wasn't going to get a grade for it, and you didn't have to do it if you didn't feel comfortable. I did it, and 17 years later, I still have that drawing. It's right here. I kind of want to share it with you real quick. I must say that if you are a person who gets very emotional, who cries easily, you probably will cry when you see this, because this is straight from the mind of me at 7 years old. And so this drawing means so much to me, and it's very personal to me. So I want to show it to you. So I don't know if some of you may have seen this drawing, but as you can see, you have my name up at the very top right here, and then you got my initials right here. I don't know if you can see that, and you see it says attack on America, and then you got my feelings right down here. I feel mad. New York, you know, the location, and then I had wrote down here, I don't know why I had wrote this, killed again in New York. And what's so weird about that is that in 1993, 1 year before I was born, there was a bombing that had happened in the garage of the World Trade Center. I don't know if that was a coincidence. I don't know. I don't even remember writing that, but I had apparently wrote that. So, as you can see, this is United Airlines Flight 175 hitting the South Tower. This was the most traumatic thing I had seen that day. The fireball explosion that petrified me. I decided to get that out of my head by drawing it out. As you can see, it says World Trade Center. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here. And you can see people still in the building. You got the smoke, all the explosion, the fire, along with the plane being on fire. You got people running out of the building. This is a fire truck. And the most chilling thing about this drawing is the person jumping out of the building and, you know, falling to their death. And no 7-year-old should be drawing something like this, but it was a way to get it all out of my head. And it's, you know, a very powerful image. And this is what terrorism does to a young mind. This is what evil does to a very young mind. It does stuff like this. And with this drawing and my experience, I have never forgotten September 11th and the over 2,977 people who died, you know, who woke up that morning to go to work and died for no reason. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget those people. And in closing, I want to say, be respectful. I know over the years you have people online that like to poke fun at 9/11. They like to make memes. They like to make jokes. And I have no respect for people who do that. I really don't. To me, when they make memes, I don't care if it's some people say it supports the situation. No, it doesn't. That's a load of horse shit. It doesn't support the situation. When you make fun of something like that, you're not supporting it. I don't give a fuck what you say. You don't. You don't. You are contributing to the problem. And that problem is the evil. And I feel as though, you know, people who poke fun of 9/11 and make memes about it, you know, they really need to get their priorities in check, because a lot of people can't be brought back, you know. And I never was a fan of that. Never was a fan of that, or just any memes about someone dying or dead, you know. Never could understand that. So I asked you to be respectful, you know. I know there's people that say that we shouldn't talk about this day, we shouldn't talk about what happened because of flashbacks. I want to talk about it, you know, because I want you to know where I was. I want you to know my experience. There are people who have flashbacks, and that's okay. You know, they don't have to talk about it. But talking, communication, I feel as though is the best form of therapy. Communication is therapeutic. Talking to someone is therapeutic. And I believe getting that off your chest by talking about it is an amazing thing. So I think we should. I think we should talk about it, and I think we should never forget it. For a long time, for a long time, I lived my life in fear over that. Vince McMahon's statement on SmackDown, 2 days after 9/11, his speech, that really helped me out. That really lifted my spirits up when I heard that. If you have me on Snapchat, you know that I posted that on my story, because Vince McMahon's words really helped me out. Pro wrestling really helped me cope with 9/11, and that's one of the reasons why I love pro wrestling so much. So yeah, I wanted to give you my experience. I want to thank Pineapple for posting this on the Pineapple Wrestling Discord. And once again, be respectful, be kind to one another, love one another. I'll see you guys soon. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.